Hello everyone, welcome to Nectar Clan Year 4. It's been a long time coming for this video, so I'm sorry for the wait. I actually was going to try to make an animatic this year for a really big event that happened, but I underestimated the amount of work that would take, and I actually didn't really enjoy the process of trying to make it, so I scrapped that idea. This year, a huge storm ravaged the territory. The cats don't know it, but this was a hurricane, and the flooding that resulted from this storm was absolutely devastating. I don't usually start with StarClan, and I like to keep the deaths a surprise, but this year there were so many that it only made sense to start there. Birchdawn wasn't afraid of the storm. She was an accomplished swimmer and was rushing to save her clanmates in the waves. She managed to assist Honeystar in getting the kits into the trees. When she swam out to save another she-cat who was trapped on a small island in the flood, the she-cat turned on her viciously. Birchdawn suffered a serious bite wound to the neck, and the last thing she heard was, "You don't deserve to live in this clan." Birchdawn was never seen again. Cupcake was doomed from the start of the flood. The thunder and lightning frightened the poor kitty pet, and she ran for cover. She hid in her den for as long as she could until the water was lapping against her belly. Quickly, she ran out and tried to scramble up the nearest tree, but her soft paws caught no grip. The two legs she loved so dearly had taken her claws, and this would take her life. Spruce Kit had only been a part of the clan for a little bit. He was young and only 4 moons old. He and his siblings had been adopted by Flail and Beach Prickle. He didn't understand what was happening when a young gray apprentice snatched him by his scruff and struggled to drag the kid outside. The young apprentice pushed against the rising waves, and Spruce Kit could feel himself being pulled from the apprentice's jaws. Another strong wave rushed towards them, and Spruce Kit was yanked from the apprentice's mouth. Ppaw was swept away as well, but he died a hero. At only 6 moons old, he had risked everything to save a kitten he didn't even know. But unfortunately, neither of them made it. Ppaw had only just been given his new warrior named Greenleap. He was very proud of himself and his sister for working through the loss of their mother Goose Nest. Greenleap's confidence in himself pushed him to try and save his clanmates during the storm. Despite being bogged down by his thick coat, he pushed against the waves to grab his sister and swim strongly toward the nearest tree. As he shoved his coughing and struggling sister into the tree, he could feel his grip on the trunk loosening. He scrambled for dear life, but the rushing water won the battle. Brightwater could feel the irony in her name as she dangled from a fallen log over the gushing waves. Heavy Moon held on to her with sharp claws and teeth, but she could feel his grip failing. She had gained a lot of weight since she was pregnant with Heavy Moon's kits. She was excited, but she couldn't help but feel like this was StarClan punishing her for pursuing Heavy Moon despite his commitment to Honeystar. Brightwater sighed in resignation as Heavy Moon lost his grip and yowled after her as she dropped into the gushing waves. Laureltail clutched a small blue apprentice in his jaws as he stared ahead into the rushing waves. He and Ppaw had found safe haven on a small island that hadn't been overcome by the flood just yet. Before them lay a gushing river, and just beyond, a thick oak tree. Honeystar watched, holding her breath from within the tree as Laureltail strode forward into the flood to try and reach the tree. Her adopted son Ppaw looked terrified, but he accepted his fate as the older Tom took them both into the water. They struggled to keep their heads above the waves, but Laureltail's strong legs strode forward with confidence. But he was old, and he could feel the effort wearing on him. As they neared the tree, Honeystar clutched the side of the trunk and reached down to pull up Ppaw. The young cat was able to scramble over her into the safety of the tree, and when Honeystar reached her paw out to grab Laureltail, he was gone. Borfer had been out hunting when the storm set in. He had just had an argument with his brother and decided to take some time alone to cool off. Unfortunately, he was so strongly focused on his hunting and the frustration he felt with his brother that he never noticed the water splashing towards him, not until it was too late. Honeystar is finding it difficult to come to terms with this year. Before the storm even came, she found out about Heavy Moon's double life and was reeling from what she had learned. She had barely any time to consider what she should do about this infidelity before the storm crashed through their home, destroying everything they loved and knew. Honeystar lost her biological son, Ppaw, and nearly lost the rest of her kits as well. She's lucky that she only sprained her paw during the storm and didn't lose any lives, but she can't bring herself to be grateful. She's lost so much: her mate, her son, and now the clan looks to her for guidance. She doesn't know what to do. All she can do is curse StarClan and curse her mother for ever forcing her to be leader. She's furious with the Nectar clan traditions that forced her down this path and have caused so much heartbreak for her. When Honeystar found Heavy Moon with Bright Water, he was not really ashamed at first, but more bitter. He had never wanted to be mates in the first place. She asked him to be deputy, and he felt like he had no other choice. He never wanted to hurt Honeystar or his family, but he never wanted to be deputy. As Honeystar stood above the clan, a deranged and desperate look in her two-toned eyes, Heavy Moon could feel the searing glares of his clanmates. He couldn't hear what she said, but he read the words from her lips. Heavy Moon is no longer deputy and is being replaced by Beach Prickle. He couldn't believe it. On one paw, he was free from the burden he had never wanted to carry, but on the other, his entire clan had turned their backs on him. Everyone except for Brightwater, who stood at his side until the devastation of the storm. Beach Prickle graciously accepted her new position in the clan, but couldn't help but be confused. The deputy was supposed to be the leader's mate, but Beach Prickle already had a mate, and she wasn't really interested in Honeystar, no offense. When she brought this up to Honeystar, the exhausted leader just growled. "I don't care what the traditions are. You are trustworthy, and that's all that matters now." Beach Prickle and Flail are grateful they survived the storm unscathed, but are devastated at the loss of one of their new adopted kits, Spruce Kit. They're both relieved that at least he's in StarClan to watch over his two remaining siblings. The two she-cats adore their kits and would do anything for them, especially Flail. Just as a reminder, she now has 6 living kits, and 7 if you include Spruce Kit. An updated family tree may be in order for next year, because Honeystar also has several adopted kits, and everybody's growing up very quickly, so it would be really nice to see who's actually related to who. Haven Ash is desperately trying to make the best of everything that has occurred. She's pleased to have so much help in the medicine cat den, since so many cats are injured. Haven Ash is the most spiritually connected medicine cat, and has the overbearing duty of listening to the demands of StarClan. They are furious with Honeystar, and Haven Ash tried to tell the leader, but she refuses to listen. Their ancestors yell that if the clan doesn't get back to their traditional values, only more terror and destruction will result. Haven Ash is very worried for the future of the clan. But she has a new med cat friend named Ridge to help her. This old man barely survived the storm alone before finding this group of cats that obviously really needed some help. He is very old and very grumpy, but he gets the job done. He knows exactly how to take care of cats and exactly what they need when they're injured or ill, so he's a very good help. Carnion Bird was incredibly busy with his medicine cat duties after the flood. He was constantly roaming the territory to find whatever herbs he could, anything that wasn't completely destroyed. One day he came back with a pair of kits that he found, in quotation marks. Maybe he did just so happen to find them in the forest, or maybe they're his, nobody knows. This isn't the first time Carnion Bird has brought home a couple of young kits though. If anybody remembers, his children are Borfer and Poppy, insert warrior name. It kind of makes you a little suspicious about what he was actually doing, roaming the territory so often. And he does his job well, so maybe we shouldn't be suspicious. At any rate, Pale Kit and Boulder Kit are both sweet and shy kittens, so nobody really minds having them around. They're pretty cute and they can help lighten the mood, I guess. Kittens are cute and they can make things a lot better. Speaking from experience. Duskpaw received her full name at the very beginning of the year. She was named Dusk Root and hailed as the roots and foundation of NectarClan's future. No pressure or anything. She's been doing her best to keep the flowers and herbs growing happily. She soaks moss with water from the streams and can use it to water the plants. She's learned a lot as her time as the herbalist and was actually starting to accept her role until the storm came. All the work she had done was demolished and the hive was nowhere to be found. Either the bees had died or moved away, or maybe they were just hiding in their nest, in their hive. Whatever the case was, Dusk Root kept the fact to herself. If Honeystar found out the hive had abandoned them, there's no telling what she'd do. Dusk Root feels like maybe this is proof that she was never meant to be the herbalist after all, and maybe Haven Ash misunderstood the warnings that StarClan gave them. Either way, she's praying to StarClan that the hive either returns or a new one comes to take its place and Honeystar never notices that the bees were missing. Weedjoy had joined the clan just before the storm and was one of the cats that was seriously injured by the storm, unfortunately. As she swam toward a tall boulder for safety, a log rushing towards her struck her and she could no longer swim. Thank goodness a young white she-cat, Grey Fern, was watching and swam out to save Weedjoy. Now, even after a few moons of healing, she is still paralyzed and fears it may be forever. She was once a fantastic hunter and is crushed to lose this ability, but she's grateful to still be alive and hopes that she can at least be a help to some other cats in some way. Poor Zari feels absolutely alone in the clan now. She had fallen in love with Laureltail, and the pair of them, though not actually mates, spent every waking moment with one another. She adored him, and he obviously adored her very much. Laureltail died saving his clanmates, and Zari couldn't be prouder of this fact, but she's absolutely devastated to lose him. She wishes it had been her instead. They had actually talked about potentially having kits, even though Zari is older. They don't know that Zari can't have kits because she's spayed, but they were excited to make a family of their own. Maybe they could have adopted kittens. Grey Fern is a very powerful swimmer and was able to save many cats in the flood. She managed to even save Lilac Drift, who had been trapped on a small island. Lilac Drift was once Grey Fern's best friend, but now she seems different. Lilac had been covered in blood when Grey Fern saved her, but she didn't have any injuries. And now that her father was dead, Laureltail, Lilac Drift was angry and violent toward her clanmates, even Grey Fern. Now Grey Fern feels like she has nobody in the clan, after her mentor Goosenest died, and now Lilac has become so bitter towards her, she doesn't know where to turn to. Some sort of a switch flipped in Lilac Drift's mind. She is a shell of the cat that she used to be. Flashes of her father floating away in the storm haunt her nightmares, and she can hardly sleep anymore. He sacrificed himself to save a kitten that wasn't even his. She was furious and devastated and afraid and out of her mind. Lilac Drift doesn't remember when she killed Birchdawn, but she knows she did it. Her rage and anguish were blinding, and Birchdawn was an easy target. In fact, Lilac Drift recalls that the same thing happened to Birchdawn's father, Rime Bramble. She was still a young cat at the time, but her strength was unmatched against the medicine cat, and she had been very angry that day and just decided that his time had come. I'm not sure what the future holds for Lilac Drift because nobody knows that she's a murderer. Sandy Nettle was disappointed to have been given Yellowpaw as an apprentice at the beginning of the year. She's weird. His sister, Birchdawn, would constantly tease him about his strange apprentice, but he did his best with Yellowpaw. She just seemed so un-cat-like. When the storm came and Sandy Nettle lost his sister, he was relieved to have his apprentice to keep his mind occupied. Yellowpaw, although completely emotionless most times, could sense her mentor's grief and constantly asked if they could train after the storm. The two of them worked hard to repair camp walls, dens, and territory markers. Most importantly, the pair worked on swimming training. Sometimes Yellowpaw would ask Sandy Nettle to swim when the sun came up, and they wouldn't stop until the sun went down. They were both desperate to become good swimmers after this storm, and Sandy Nettle wanted to make sure that Yellowpaw was prepared. When Yellowpaw was given her warrior name, it was Yellowfin, in honor of her swimming ability. Feather received her warrior name alongside her brother Greenleap, and she solemnly accepted the name Feathernest in honor of her mother Goosenest. She spent the majority of the year trying to live as her mother would, carefree and happy. When the storm came, she couldn't keep up this cheery appearance, though. Feathernest lost her entire family and feels completely shattered because of it. She's one of the cats that was affected the most by this storm, but she still tries to keep her chin up. She's certain that it could always be worse. She could have lost Shinesong, too. These two have been very good friends in the aftermath of the flood. They spend a lot of time together, just trying to keep each other company. Shinesong actually developed white cough after getting a chill from being so wet from the storm, and Feathernest was with her through it all. They've both started to develop some feelings for one another, but they both feel like it's wrong to embrace this love when they're both still grieving so heavily for the loves they've just lost. Maybe someday, though. Maybe in the future. Amberpaw and Bravepaw received their warrior names this year and are now called Amberstone and Bravebreeze. These two seem to be the only cats not absolutely devastated by the flood. Of course, they realize that what happened is an absolute tragedy, but they didn't lose each other, so it's not too bad. They're a little bit, ignorant. The sisters have been doing their best to help clean up their camp and keep the clan safe as everyone grieves and recovers. However, these girls are still young and inexperienced, so they're running into some troubles. Amberstone went out patrolling and got caught up with a small group of rogues. She's got a nasty bite wound because of it. Like the medicine cats needed another cat to treat, unnecessarily. What's actually even worse is Bravebreeze took it upon herself to build a nice new warrior's den for everyone. She tested it out one night to make sure there were no leaks in Leaf Bear and got frostbite because of her terrible workmanship. These two are trying their best, but they are unfortunately failing constantly and getting themselves injured or sick. Ppaw was given the name Poppy Dart for his speed and agility. His brother Borfer had been given his warrior name a moon before Poppy, and the brothers were bitter over it. Poppy Dart was jealous, and he let that get in the way of his relationship with his brother. The last time Poppy Dart saw Borfer, they had an argument about who could climb a tree faster. It was the most ridiculous and petty argument, and there isn't a day that Poppy Dart doesn't regret starting fights with Borfer. He's devastated to lose his best friend and brother, and has thrown himself into his work as a mentor to keep his mind busy. He's a very young mentor and is excited to have his very first apprentice, and is happy for the responsibility. Ppaw is an attentive and active apprentice, so he appreciates her presence. She's high energy and eager to stay on the move. They're always out hunting or fishing. Maybe she's trying to distract herself from her grief as much as he is. Ppaw nearly died in the storm if it weren't for Laureltail. He feels beyond indebted to the lost Tom and wishes that there was something he could have done to save him. But he's too small. Since the beginning, Ppaw was always small and he hates it. He feels like a weak apprentice, and someday he will be a weak warrior. His sisters are strong and powerful and so much bigger than him. Even his late brother, Bumblepaw, was a strong, brave hero. Ppaw knows he'll never measure up to his siblings, but he hopes maybe someday. Blossompaw is now the only living biological heir of Honeystar, and is highly aware of her duty to the clan. She was raised to be the leader of the clan, just as Honeystar was, but she can't stand the thought of it. Her mother was made leader at only 12 moons old, which is almost Blossompaw's age. What a nightmare. But now that Honeystar is turning against traditions, maybe she'll turn against this tradition of inheritance as well. Also, as always, if you have warrior name suggestions for any of the apprentices, please leave them down below, because the randomly generated ones are not always that great. Ppaw is Blossompaw, Ppaw, and Elkpaw's sister. They're all Honeystar's kids. She has grown into a loyal, intelligent apprentice under the careful mentorship of Flail. Ppaw knows Flail treats her especially well because she's the kit of the leader, but she doesn't mind, as long as she gets to train with her siblings or her new friend Ppaw. That's all that matters to her. Ppaw is a little younger than her, but she found him while out on patrol with Flail. When they found him, he was trapped beneath a large log, and his hind leg was damaged. He was able to keep his leg, but it's forever unusable. Despite this, he gets around well and is learning how to handle the handicap that his bad leg gives him. He's a silly young apprentice, and he has a lot of life in him. He's constantly running around despite his bum leg, and he'll even drag that dang leg if he has to. He is always on the go and always trying to get into something. He's a cutie. I have high hopes for him. Our two elders are struggling this year. Dayror and Needletangle, alongside the kits of the clan, were the first cats to be rescued from the flood. They're both quite old, but still felt incredibly guilty for not being able to help. They comforted one another and the kits in the tree branches, but they are disappointed in themselves for not being able to do more. Nobody is making them feel guilty for not saving any other cats, but they just have this internal idea that they should be able to do more. Dayror is struggling to cope with all the loss he's seen in his time. Needletangle is doing her best to comfort him, but he just seems so far gone. She loves him dearly, and she knows he doesn't love her back, at least not in that way, but she still tries to be a support to him when he needs it. Needletangle is also very concerned for her past apprentice Lilac Drift. The young she-cat seems to have gone off the deep end after the storm, and Needletangle is very worried for her. Finally, we have a light at the end of the tunnel. Tiger Kit and Garlic Kit. These two were adopted by Flail and Beach Prickle and are the siblings to Spruce Kit, as well as the adopted siblings of Yellowfin, Dusk Grot, Brave Breeze, and Amberstone. Yeah, maybe it's about time for a family tree. These kits are both oddly observant, so they make the other cats a little uncomfortable at times. No cat can do anything in the clan without 4 eyes watching them. They're both very sweet and quiet, but sometimes they get looks in their eyes like they're all-knowing. Their mothers think it's funny, and the kits enjoy teasing the older cats with their hard stares. I'm really hopeful that these two will grow up into warriors, or grow up at all, but I'm definitely worried after this year that we've had. Wow, so that was year 4. That was an absolutely tragic year, and I hope you guys aren't too bummed out about it. Hopefully next year is better and we have fewer deaths, but I am definitely worried after StarClan's warning to Haven Ash. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. If you join me for the next video, I'll see you then.